Hello, everybody, and welcome to a very special, very romantic episode of Board with Each Other.
Ooh la la.
We are the board game podcast that looks at board games and reviews them to see how well they play with two players, whether it be with your BFF, your significant other, or Big Dave from the Board Game Club, who you think should broaden his horizons in terms of the games he plays. I'm your host, Alistair Simpson, and I'm joined as ever, by my player two and lovely wife, Hannah Kelly.
Hi guys.
And today we are going to be talking about Fog of Love.
Ooh la la again.
Is it a board game? Is it a role-playing experience?
Is it both?
Is it both? We'll find out. Fog of Love is a two-player only board game slash role-playing experience, as I said. The game revolves around you taking control of a character and playing through a scenario represented by a deck of cards. Each of the cards in the scenario are representative of chapters, and within each chapter, you will play a certain number of scenes, which are cards that the players have in their hands. When you play a scene, you will either have to both make a choice, sight unseen, out of four options, usually, or your partner, so your other half in the scenario, will make a choice. These choices affect your personality. I think there's 8 categories of personality. I might be wrong
I
there.
feel like there's 5, but there's 2 dimensions on each.
Possibly. There's a number of personality aspects that have diametrically opposed sort of north and south. So you will either be gentle or a rough, loudmouthed kind of person, for example. You'll be very studious and very put together, or you'll be a bit slovenly. The downsides are not always negative. They're just sort of two sides of the same coin in terms of personality aspects. Um, and the choices that you make will usually impact both your personality and it will also impact your overall satisfaction within the relationship. And that's represented by you have a card where you have a counter that sort of goes around representing how much satisfaction you currently have. Personality tokens are important because you need them to achieve your traits,
Trait goals.
your trait goals at the end of the game. Your trait goals are something you draw right at the start when you create your character, and they will have requirements on them. So, for example, you may need a total of 3 in shyness individually, or you'll need a shared balance of 5 and something else. So you take both yours and your opponent's counters into effect and all the personality aspects, and you subtract the north from the south and vice versa. So you need to basically swing your character into a certain way to achieve those at the end of the game. Achieving those at the end of the game will achieve you more satisfaction. The game is either cooperative, semi-co-op, or head-to-head, and you don't know which of those things is going on while you're playing. You are dealt a set of destinies at the start of the game, and those destinies have particular win condition requirements on them. The majority of them, I would say, require you to both be happy or fulfilled in a certain way, and usually have a certain balance in one of the personality aspects. But there are some introduced in later scenarios which actually require you to break up.
Yep.
But you only win if you break up with your partner and they don't break up with you a lot of the time. You never quite know what it is that your partner's going for in terms of actually winning the game. And again, you can both win, one can win, you can both lose, all the permutations of that. There are a few other different types of cards. When you draw a card, you have a hand of 5 cards, and you draw from 3 decks, which are sweet, serious, and drama. There are another few different types of cards mixed in there that are not just simple sort of scenes that you play. There are secrets, which require you to put a card down, sort of face down underneath your board, and something may happen in the game that reveals that secret, and then it has impacts, or it'll have impacts at the end of the game that it was never revealed. So, for example, one of your character might be starting a business in secret. That's just one of them. You also get things called minor scenes, which usually have impacts on either the card that was previously played or the next card. So you play a scene, and the next card will be worth double satisfaction points, whether they're positive or negative, for example. Play goes back and forth, so 1 card per turn, and each chapter has a set length of cards. So it'll be 8 cards for a chapter, and then you draw a new chapter, and it all starts over again. Most of the scenarios are over 3 chapters. The last one we played was over 4.
4?
Yeah. When you create your character at the start of the game, you also get a occupation, which is, dealt to you randomly. And you also each start with a hand of feature cards, which you have to describe about your opponent and give them to them, or
Your partner.
partner, whatever, opponent, partner, can also be both in this, and you give them to explain what it is that attracted you to them. At its core, this game can be played straight faced,
Mm.
where you read the cards, you do things, you make the choices. How the game is meant to be played is as a role playing experience. So you are supposed to create and inhabit a character, and when you are putting your scene cards down, you are supposed to take those as prompts to sort of describe what's actually happening, depending on what the relationships are. All of the different scenarios have different bases for them. So, for example, you were high school sweethearts, or you started dating, you decided to lock in and give it a year. There's different starting scenarios for that, and it is heavily expandable. There's a large amount of scenarios out there. The reasons for that we'll get to in a little bit. That's basically it, I think, rules wise.
Yeah, playtime, I would say about 45 minutes.
I'd say closer to an hour, my perception. Yeah,
I think
around.
maybe the later games with more chapters.
It does depend which scenario you play. Some of them are a lot quicker than others.
Mhm.
Interestingly enough, it's worth mentioning that this game comes with a tutorial introductory scenario that is designed to actually teach you the game in its entirety as you play. That how good that is, we'll also get to in a little bit. But yeah, anything else you want to mention?
No, I think that's probably about it.
Okay, well let's crack on with some scoring then.
All right then. So as always, we start with our general rating scale, and first up is components. So essentially, what's in the box?
And how nice is it? I'll just say right off the bat, this is exceptionally well made.
Do you know, it strikes me as the Ferrero Rocher of board games.
Yeah.
Like everything, the box itself comes in a sleeve.
Mm.
The color, it reminds me of an Apple.
Yeah,
Apple
it's
product.
like opening up an iPad, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
a little bit. You've
it,
got these really solid, chunky
poker chip
poker
for your
chips that you
choices.
use
Yeah.
to make your choices. You've got a nice little card stand. You've got like a little box with all your little counters in it,
Mm,
and it just feels super deluxe.
yeah, it does. It reminds me of Stonemeyer's games, so Scythe and Wingspan, and
But even
yeah, I'd say it's even excess of that. Um, yeah, it's really, really well made.
yeah,
Visually, I imagine it being a bit Marmitey. It's very white and clinical, and
Apple.
yeah, it's that Apple aesthetic almost, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what I would say is there's not a huge amount of illustration on the cards. In fact, there are no
No,
pictures
there's
whatsoever.
no artwork aside from the cover of each scenario. There's no artwork
Yeah,
at
there's
all.
no artwork. And what I would also say is that your choices on the cards when you play a scene, there is a lot of often text,
Mm,
and it can be a bit like you have to sit there and read it for a really long time, which kind of takes you a little bit out of that play
mm.
experience. And I feel like that could have been improved in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or just makes life maybe a little bit more vibrant. It can start to feel quite cold and clinical
Yeah, it
while
does a
you're
little bit.
playing it.
Just how I deal with my relationships.
Yeah, exactly. Cold and clinical. Um, so yeah, I mean it's a wonderful package. The only thing I have a slight bugbear with is setup.
Hmm.
It's not overly long or overly complex. It's just with each scenario you get a bunch of sort of extra scenes to put in, and you get a different hand of destinies, and it can feel like a bit of a fiddle sometimes getting it all set up.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know what the solution would be, but I feel like the icons on the card from the scenario would be a little bit more pronounced and a
Again,
bit,
it's that aesthetic, isn't it?
yeah.
Everything's white and
Well, it
grey.
doesn't have any special icons on it to denote that it's part of the scenario, as far as I could tell. And that's not too bad for setup, but for teardown, it means you have to go through every deck with a list of the names of the cards that you need to strip back out.
Hmm.
Whereas normally in these kind of scenarios, it would have an icon on, so you could just see the icon and pull it out straight away.
Hmm.
It does not have that, which makes teardown take way longer than it should.
Should needs to be, yeah.
Which is it's a shame, and I
Mm.
just feel like they'd be so easily solvable.
Yeah.
Like they could have just put a little icon in there, and you know. And some of them do, and some of them don't.
What I will say though, I mean, the first time we opened this, I was blown away.
Yeah, it's a big wow
Yeah, it was a
factor.
real
Yeah,
big wow, and I felt like we were in for something really, really special,
yeah,
because of the way that it was packaged. I
yeah,
think.
and the way it's presented. Um, In terms of, I think under components, I'm going to talk a little bit about the introductory scenario.
Well, I was going to talk about that under complexity, but we can talk about it here now if you want.
Okay, no, let's leave complexity for complexity. That's fine, but actually probably fits a bit better in there, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's park that. So how did you score it, components wise?
So 9, because I really honestly think it's probably one of the nicest production values of a game that I've
Mm,
seen.
okay, fair enough. I give it an 8. I think it is very, very good. It would have got a 9 or even a 10 actually if it wasn't for that tear down issue, which I think is so easily solvable. I find it a bit frustrating. I also do find the style a little bit cold. It doesn't jive with me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting because a lot of the cards are quite general gender neutral. So you have one player who is blue and one player who is pink,
Mm,
but actually you can flip the sides of your cards so you can play a man or a woman, so you can play two men, two
yeah,
women.
yeah.
And I actually quite like, and all the scenario, or not scenarios, all the scenes, the way that they're written, there is a gender neutrality to all of them, which I
Yes.
really like. And I also understand why they've gone for that grey
Mm,
white
yeah, to
theme
leave it open
to leave it
for
really open.
imagination role playing, I guess. Yeah.
So I do understand why they've done it, but also, yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So then let's talk about complexity. So that's not necessarily about how complex a game is or isn't,
Mm-hmm.
but how well the game
How well the complexity serves the
serves the
gameplay.
gameplay, and also
Mm,
things like analysis paralysis and arguing about rules.
yeah.
So you've already talked about the introductory.
Yeah. Shall we address that one
Yeah, let's start
first?
off there.
Yeah. So it comes with a sort of the way it's packaged, as long as you don't shuffle anything when you take it out of the box, it's in sort of this preordained order
Mm,
that's there to sort of teach you how to play while you play your first game, which for a game like this, I think is a really good shout because it means people can, of differing, however you go through rules as a couple or whatever, you can just sort of crack it out and give it a go.
Yeah, and so I think quite often, especially when you're teaching people rules, it can be quite rules heavy.
Mm.
Whereas this is very experiential, and you get to play along with it. And I think as we started doing it, I was like, "This is amazing! More games should absolutely do this." And
But then we
then,
found ourselves getting quite confused.
yeah, we found ourselves getting quite confused. There was an awful lot of reading in between actually playing.
Yeah, I think that introductory game took like 2.5 hours.
Yeah, and it really interrupted the flow.
Mm,
And given that this is very narrative driven,
mm.
I felt that that kind of impeded our ability to then play that first game properly.
Absolutely. And that narrative role playing driven ethos to the game comes through a lot more strongly in the actual rule book than it does in the introductory
Yeah.
scenario. It doesn't tell you or point you in the direction of treating this more as a role playing experience and how to do that.
Mhm.
So the first real game we played after that, we played in a very clinical fashion
Yeah.
because we just didn't really get it.
Yeah.
And then I sat down with the rule book and things changed. We sort of changed the way we played it.
What I would also say as well is that because you had quite a lot of rules done in between playing a scene,
Mm,
it meant that some of that got lost because actually we were keen just to get going.
yeah.
And so it meant that when we came to playing our first game, we were like, wait,
Oh, wait,
hang
how do
on,
we do
we
this?
no,
Yeah.
wait, this is all completely wrong. And we had to go back and we had to start all over again because we'd lost some of the finer detail about the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and going back to rules, rule book's not great. It's another one of these where things seem to be in an odd place, like where you would expect rules to be about certain things, where you
Mhm.
refer back to it is in a different place to where you'd expect. I really wish games designers would start putting very similar rules about similar things together as opposed to just randomly putting them on different pages. But that's an ongoing quibble of mine, I find. So yeah, but to go into the actual complexity of the game itself, it's not a complex game.
No. You draw a whole bunch, you've got a hand of cards, you pick a card that you think is going to align with what it is that you want to, where you want to go, you play it, you vote, and then you move on.
Yeah. Yeah, there are touches of complexity, particularly around the destinies, I find, of knowing which ones you have in your hand. You have different categories of swap in a destiny, discard a destiny, draw a destiny, and it can become a little bit muddled after a while. And there's also, I at least didn't find clear rules about eventualities where you're instructed to discard, you don't have one, you only have one, do you then
I'm
have an
pretty
empty
sure it's
hand?
there, it's
It's probably
just
there, we just missed it
you
somewhere.
missed it somewhere.
But the whole thing was a little bit overwrought, in my opinion.
Yeah. I also would say there are some scene cards, like secrets, for example, but also other ones that allow you to impact gameplay. So, for example, I can immediately play a card that scratches whatever choice it was that you've
Mm.
made and make you choose what I want you to choose. And I don't think we ever really use them because, again, they feel a bit overwrought. It feels like
Yeah,
a way of gamifying something that's actually a role playing
and
experience.
not really much of a game, but we'll get to that.
But yeah, we'll come to that.
Yeah,
But I feel like they were chucked in there to make it a gaming
bit more gamey,
experience.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there's real problems with that. And I think a lot of this is going to be saved to later in the review around the competitive
Mm,
cooperability category that we talk about. I've got a lot to say in that, so
mm.
just hold
We'll
the
park it.
space and we'll park it for now, and
Yeah.
we'll get there. Um, I think it serves the complexity serves the gameplay okay. It's slightly below average for me. I think some things could be tightened up, some things could be a bit smoother.
Yeah. But janky is, again, how
Yeah,
I would
there's a bit of jank there.
describe it. And again, I also think because you're essentially trying to role play out these scenes, sometimes they happen in really weird waters.
Yeah.
So, for example, you might be making someone breakfast after your first date, which, I mean, to be fair, that's a very good first
Oh,
date.
that's a first,
But, you
good
know,
first day. But
there's a level of jank to it
yeah,
that,
there's also some incredible pivots, like I'm pregnant, and the next scene is does my butt look big in this from the other person? That again, that feeds into some where there's fun,
yeah.
which we'll get onto in a bit.
So how did you rate it for
I
complexity?
gave it a 4.
Yeah, so I gave it a 3.
Yep, fine.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I felt
kind of on
it
the
was
same
trying
page
to
there.
gamify something,
Yeah,
and so I scored it a 3.
yeah.
So shelf life then, including things like value for money and replayability. So
Mm.
what's the price point on this?
So this retails for 45 quid.
Oh,
So it's quite a spicy RRP. However, for reasons we'll get onto shortly, this is everywhere on the second-hand market.
hmm
And from what I can tell, the going price for it on the second-hand market for a like new copy is somewhere in the region of 13 to 15 pounds
okay,
because it's everywhere.
yeah.
Um, I think a lot of people bought this, and it is not very replayable at all.
So I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I didn't necessarily know what the price point was on it.
Mm,
There is, I think, a large amount of replayability in this.
mm.
Uh, I think it all depends about how much fun you have when you play it. So, for a start, there are lots of expansions. You've already mentioned on that. We don't
Yeah,
have any of
but
them.
that's adding a lot to the price point of 45 already.
Yes, okay, admittedly. But you've got a lot of variety in terms of your destiny. So whether you should be staying together, breaking up. Admittedly, they're introduced in later scenarios, but
Mm.
you know, it's the core sort of vanilla box. And then, you know, in terms of things like your traits, etc. So if you really enjoyed that sort of narrative role playing esque
Mm.
thing, then I think there is quite a lot of replayability.
Perhaps I don't see it.
Yeah.
I don't see it. I think that, full disclosure for the listeners, this is the first game that we have ever reviewed that we have played less than 6 times.
Yes.
And the
I think four
reason,
times.
no, five.
Well,
Five.
I don't plan for the first one because we scratched that.
No, we still played it 5 times.
Really?
Yeah, we played it 5 times. The the reason for that is I feel like I've seen everything there is to offer
Yeah.
from it after 5 plays. I don't think I would gain any additional insight into it or depth by
But I
playing it
think
more.
that's my point. I think my point is you wouldn't. I don't think you would play this as a traditional board game. You would play this as a role playing esque
Yeah,
experience.
I suppose. I suppose, but I don't know. Maybe it's more me thing, but there's only so many permutations of absolute cretins I could create.
Yeah, because obviously we never play nice setting of normal people. We play absolutely deranged.
I mean, Hannah
Yes.
role played as Theresa May the one time, so I'll let that. I'll let you make your own
I
decisions
don't
about
think
that.
I've called her deranged.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, for
I
like
don't love with the
reasons.
lettuce. Um, so yeah, it's for me personally, this has probably the lowest shelf life of any game I've played.
Yeah.
It feels like a real one and done for me. And I think we were lucky enough to get this way after it came out. I don't know when it came out exactly, but it's been years, and you can get it quite cheaply now.
hmm
And if I played £45 for this, I would have been quite pissed off.
Yeah, so I think that price point is. I mean, we've talked about the box, and I understand
It's
why it's
justifiable.
justifiable
Yeah,
given the
it's
content and the
justifiable.
quality of the
I
box.
don't think they're ripping anybody off, but
No,
but unfortunately, I think a game has been created that just doesn't have that replayability to
yeah,
you can find things for half that you'll be playing for years.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's all relative. £45 is less than a meal out. You know, if you have a great time with us a few times, then you know it's worth it to some people. But I've come to expect a certain amount of longevity from board games that I buy, and this does not meet that at all.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah,
So, how did you score it then?
I give it a two.
So I rated it a bit higher than that because I did think there was more replayability, but I didn't know what the price point was until
Mm,
you said. So I'm going to knock it down to a 5.
okay, fine.
Because I do think there is replayability there if
Okay,
that's what
if that's your bag,
if that's your bag.
yeah, fine. Okay.
So then finally in our general criteria we have fun. Did you have any fun when you played it?
This is a shit ball game, but it's
It
a
fucking is, isn't it? It's awful. Like there's no ball game to
it's a
it.
terrible ball game, but it's quite fun.
It is really good fun, and we always have fun playing it,
Yeah,
and
we
we
do.
always laugh.
Hmm.
Um, and some of that narrative that comes out in it is really good.
It's entered into our running joke lexicon in quite a few ways now,
Yeah,
hasn't it? I think this is an impossible game to assess as a board game
yeah.
reviewer because your mileage is going to vary so much depending on your personality type.
Hmm.
Um, you will have people that just love role playing that play this completely straight and have a whale of a time with it. You'll have people like me and Hannah who just try and create the most cretinous people we can possibly think of, and then
Well, the only solution is to break up because why would anyone spend their life
or
with this
not, which is
person?
even funnier, and then just sort of bash them together like two action figures. And I have had an enormous amount of fun doing that. But that's just how we are. That just floats our humour boat. You will have people who will be mortally offended by the other person playing this. I could see this ending relationships if there's a lot of insecurity going on. I think this could potentially be an absolute powder keg to throw on some situations. So I would absolutely say approach with caution, and you need to know
Who
your
you're playing with, yeah.
personality type and who you're playing with because you could get if people aren't very au fait with the concept of role playing and the separation of character and person, or wanted to use it as a way of exploring things that are currently wrong in a relationship, this could be an absolute disaster.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not criticizing people.
Use this as couples therapy.
I wouldn't use this as couples therapy, especially not if you're playing with me, because it would be an absolute disaster. Um, so yeah, I thought it's worth exploring that. The fun you have with this will completely depend on what kind of person you are, what your personality is like, and the person you're playing with. Because this is a game that 100% takes two to tango. You can't have fun with this unless the other person's having fun.
And I think that's the crux of the issue, really, isn't it? It's fun as a role playing experience. I rated this, and I talked about this from a gaming perspective, and I think probably what I'll do is I'll park a lot of that, and we'll come and talk about it in terms of co-op.
Yeah, I've left all my game stuff in our
Yeah.
co-op competitiveness. I haven't left all of it because
Hmm.
I do think it affects my score here because I think my score would be a lot higher if there was a game underneath it as well.
Hmm.
I mean, I'd be having a whale of a time, and I certainly wouldn't be knocking it down for value for money if there was an actual game.
Yeah.
The game is so bare bones and such a fundamental mess.
Yeah.
Not in rules, but in terms of strategy or trying to win or any of that stuff you usually expect to get from a board game.
This
It's
is
completely,
this
it's a
is
complete mess.
you need to tell a story, take each other on a story
And
and
have fun
see
with
and
that.
have fun with that
Yeah.
and see what happens. And I think if you treat it like that, then and you haven't got relationship issues,
Yeah.
then you'll have a whale of time. It'll be fantastic. I think if you're approaching it from I want to have a gaming experience and I want to win, and
It just comes down like a house of cards
yeah,
immediately.
it
Yeah,
falls
it
down
falls
massively.
over completely.
So for that reason, I gave it a 4.
I gave it a seven,
But you we approach it from
but
different
we have
angles.
approached this from different angles
Yeah.
because I have a good time playing this. Do I ever want to play it again? Probably not.
No,
But the 5 plays that we've had, even though
we've always laughed.
each time we pulled it out, I've been a bit like, oh, I'd rather play something else. But go on then. I've actually ended up having a great time.
Mm,
So I can't dispute that. It's fun. It's really fun. But a lot of that has to do with how you and I approach these
yeah,
kind of things,
yeah.
which
Just
is
with a massive
very, very
pinch of
tongue in cheek
very tongue in cheek, massive
and
pinch of
a
salt.
huge dollop of dark humor.
Okay.
So yeah, a seven, I think.
All right, so let's add those up.
So we total those up and average them out as always, and that gives us a general rating of 5, which I
Yeah,
think, yeah, I'm okay with that.
yeah, mediocre.
There's some real highs and lows hiding underneath that five, if you're
Yeah.
listening.
No,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, I'm okay with giving this a five.
Okay, so on to our two-player rating scales, and first up is table talk and getting to know you.
Yeah.
So, you've got to throw yourself into this as a role-playing experience for this to work, and when you do, it is absolutely banging.
Yeah, spoiler alert, the two-player category is going to be a tale of two halves. Yeah, I mean, for everything you could ever want in terms of table talk and interaction over that, this is trumps. This is fantastic. You want to play something to get to know. I mean, I wouldn't crack this out early on in a relationship. I
No,
think that would be intensely weird.
role-playing, getting
Crack it
married, and
out.
having
Crack it
babies.
out with like your long-standing male friend who you haven't seen in a while, and just make things extra weird, which is kind of like I'm almost tempted to hang on to and just take a round to one of my friends' houses and just go, "Oh, I've got a game for us to play," and refuse to elaborate further. um, but yeah, it's great for all that kind of thing. You're constantly interacting. You do get to know the other person. They
And you
are,
can take it as far as you want.
yeah,
You can have a very quick scenario or scene, sorry, if that's what you want to do, or you can really role play it out to the
we really get
nines,
into it.
and really
Yeah,
get into it
yeah,
if that's what you want to do.
yeah. If that's what you want to take from it.
Yeah,
Yeah, so I mean, it ticks all boxes on this front. I can't see any negatives really.
yeah.
It's fantastic, and I've given it a nine as a result.
Yeah, so I gave it an eight. What I would say is that you do have to be in the right place for it.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, yeah. If you're having a hard time, particularly relationship wise, wouldn't advise it.
Yeah. But I think as long as you know what you're getting into, I
Yeah,
think is absolutely brilliant. And yeah, it's a cracker.
yeah, absolutely. Okay.
All right. Okay. So on to the competitiveness slash co-op
Yeah.
rating scale. So as you've already alluded to, it might be that you are both the destinies that you end up with
Hmm.
are where you are trying to stay together as a couple, and therefore you are collaboratively working together to improve your relationship.
Hmm.
But me and Al don't play like that. We like to fuck with each other,
Yeah.
and and so we usually end up on a road to heartbreak. But what I would also say beyond that is it it's not really what winning is going to look like.
No, no, it never is. I think so. Here's my fundamental problem with this as a game.
Hmm.
You have these destinies, which are essentially your victory cards. Okay. And you can do some luck-based subterfuge with them, where certain choices allow you to swap them in and out, and all the rest of it. But unless you're trying to trick your opponent and go for a sole victory, there's no point in that anyway. If you are heading for a breakup scenario, a lot of the requirements on the cards, or even the cooperative scenarios, a lot of the requirements on the cards around the satisfaction
Hmm.
of either you or your partner or both of you together require you to take non-stop wild swings at that. So you either have to be this falling sycophant,
Hmm.
or you have to be an absolute cretin to your
Hmm.
partner. And
It's
it's
fun, by
which
the
is
way.
fun, but it's absolutely obvious what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, if you just leave it up to the winds of chance, and therein is my other problem with the choices, a lot of the time it is up to chance whether you get the same thing or not. And it breaks the immersion to a certain extent because you then start trying to match what you think the person is going to do, not the character that they're playing.
Hmm.
And if you're trying to get matches or not get matches, etc., etc. And the whole thing just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's that gamey factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's game applied to a role playing scenario game that it just lets it all down, really.
And what happens with the heartbreak and breakup kind of stuff is you obviously start acting like an obvious
Twat.
twat. Yeah. And your partner's going to do one of two things. They're either going to start doing the same thing back because there's no real defense against it, or they're going to go after a particular card which is a defense for it, which is
Hmm.
called, I think it's called Graceful Exit,
Mm.
which if somebody breaks up with you, you end up winning. But that's just really flat from a gameplay perspective. You just go, oh, they're trying to break up with me. Okay, I'll just get that destiny and then I'll win.
What I'd also say as well is that because you score your traits at the end, so you get
Mhm.
three traits, and they're worth I think four satisfaction per.
It changes from scenario to scenario. I think normally they're worth +5 or -3 if you fail them.
Yeah. So if actually they achieved all their traits, that might still push them over the edge in terms of their satisfaction
Mm.
anyway, so you lose. So it becomes this real sort of mental arithmetic.
And they're too easy to achieve.
Yeah, they are really. Well,
I,
actually, I failed all of mine in the last game.
yeah, but that's because I kept putting cards down. I kept wiping all of your
Yeah,
scores from the
yeah,
board.
yeah. Which is
Um,
another thing you can do, which again is that gamey factor, which doesn't
just doesn't seem to
it doesn't even
belong.
serve the narrative,
No, it's
you
like a
know?
game was created and then the theme and the crux of the game was built on top of it, and nary shall the two meet.
Yeah,
It just doesn't work in concert. As a concept, it's fantastic, but as a game, it just fails on
yeah.
every single level.
And I think if they'd have just picked a lane, in fact, that's what I've written here. You need
Mm,
to pick a lane and decide what it is that you want to do with this game because the two just don't gel. And I don't even see how you would get them to marry. So you could
no,
house rule it in some way that you could get it to kind of function on a
yeah,
on a game
on a
level.
game level, and I think the problem is the game.
Yeah,
I think the concept and the idea is fantastic, but I just don't think they ever managed to come up with a game to support it.
yeah. And actually, I think if you took the game out of it, that would be absolutely cool.
Yeah, it's just
It,
you could strip all of that mostly away and
and
just
still
have
have an amazing role playing
all the fun stuff
experience.
that I have from it. I get from the other
Yeah,
side. None of it is from the game.
yeah,
None of it is from the game. The game itself is dire,
yeah. It's
absolutely
literally just
dreadful.
admin.
Yeah, it's admin, aimless admin with really obvious tactical choices, both for yourself and what they appear to be to your opponent. And for a two-player game where you're not getting sort of obfuscated by other people's moves, it's an absolute damn squib in that regard.
Yeah. And I'm still not sure if it is a cooperative game or it is a competitive
It's
game.
all of these things, which is also a problem.
Yeah.
Um, I think the idea of it transforming into one of those things during gameplay. I mean, not Destiny. Nemesis does the same
Yeah.
thing, but it does it well.
Yeah.
This does not do it well. It is sort of, yeah, it's just this blancmange. It
Hmm.
does not tick any of the boxes I would look to be ticked from a board game. So yeah, I think I am going to give this my first one.
Ah, yeah. So I gave it a 2 because I felt that was quite harsh.
No,
Um,
I'm going to be
but
harsh on
yeah,
this
no,
because
I
as
think
far
that's
as
a
the category
reasonable.
goes, it does not tick any box for me whatsoever.
Mhm.
It's a dreadful game with a really cool idea and a really cool theme and concept attached to it.
It's still quite fun to
And
play.
it's still quite fun to play, which we made quite clear in our previous category. Okay, so as this is a two-player only game, we NA the would more people make this more fun. I would love to see
Team sport,
I want
team
I want the
relationships.
polyamorous expansion. I want to play that.
There we go. There's a Kickstarter for you.
Drama! Actually, scratch that. I'm going to pattern that. Okay, so we'll add those up. And that gives us an overall rating, unsurprisingly, of 5. Two-player rating, sorry, not overall, not general rating. As I said, complete tale of two halves.
Yeah,
Great experience, table talk-wise, dreadful game, so we've ended up somewhere in the middle.
which I think is fair.
But hopefully you should know what's important to you about it. I think overall, just a general point, if you are sort of anything like us that can have a laugh with role playing, etc., and you see this for very cheap on the second-hand market, I give it a whirl.
What
Give it a
I'd
try.
also say is D&D can be really intimate. So we play D&D two-player.
Mm.
You're my forever DM, and I play a
Multiple
myriad
characters.
of
Yeah.
characters. Um, but if you just want to test the waters of whether role playing is going to work,
Mm.
this is and you can pick it up really cheaply for like 15
Yeah,
quid.
yeah.
I would
It's a
absolutely
nice
go
launching
for
point.
it. It's a really nice launching point that's really quite safe and contained,
Yeah,
and you get a little bit of a chance to create characters and inhabit them. So
absolutely.
I think a really good way of testing the waters before you leap into something like D&D with all your dice and
Yeah.
thick, heavy rule books with post-it notes on the side.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I hope you've enjoyed this Valentine's Day episode.
End of
It
divorce.
didn't end in divorce, no, not yet. But until next time, have fun, be extra good to each other, don't break up, and play some chill board games. Until next time, see you later.